everyone, and welcome to the Gen Z Up to the Ballot podcast. I'm your host, Charlie James, and on today's episode, we have a very interesting conversation about the political climate around Southeast Ohio and around the nation. With us today, our very special guest, the editor-in-chief of the New Political, a local Athens political newspaper, Jack Slem. Jack, welcome to the pod.
Thanks, Charlie, for having me.
Yep, so we can go ahead and just get this started with a little bit about yourself and how you got involved in New Political. So how did you originally find out about the program and how did you get involved?
Sure. I was a freshman that just got recently accepted into the journalism program here on campus, and I was walking around the involvement fair, and I knew that I wanted to get involved and do in a newspaper on campus, some sort of publication. And I remember meeting a lot of the editors and writers and really just understanding the fact that I had a knack for politics and I wanted to continue, writing in general, but especially about something that I'm interested in. And people at TNP were extremely nice and welcomed me in, and I've been doing a lot of great work with them ever since.
Yeah, so you mentioned how you started it as a freshman, or started working with them as a freshman, and cultivating relationships with people inside the organization. So what was your motivation to move up within the organization from just a freshman, maybe you started as like a beat writer or something, to now being the editor-in-chief?
Sure. I just loved every aspect of it, and I wanted more and more and more. I've never been the type of person that likes to stay stagnant in something. I like to continuously climb up and can remain busy and busier and busy again. And honestly, I wanted to be the face of it and help young writers get to the point where I am today. Whether that's through sourcing, working with them on editing stories, giving them strong pitch ideas, helping them with their pitches. I don't know, I just always wanted to do more and to give back to as many people as I possibly could, while also, learning a lot about the profession for my own career. Just one thing led to another and kept working hard and wound up becoming editor-in-chief.
So you mentioned how you came into Ohio already, having some type of fascination with politics. Did you, come in as a freshman with that in mind, saying, hey, I want to get involved with something political on campus, or did you join the org and then that interest kind of flourished?
Sure. I would say that I think I already had an interest in politics for sure. The last two elections prior to me coming into college, one of them being most of my high school career, it was a turning point in this country, and it opened up a lot of polarization in our nation, and I found that to be really fascinating. It's something that I wanted to dive into from the journalist's perspective. I always had a knack for politics for my student newspaper when I was in high school. Didn't really get the opportunity to write a lot about it, but I always read about it and learned about it and talked with friends and other teachers and stuff like that in high school about it, and I knew that was something that I wanted to continue working on, thinking about, and growing in college.
Yeah, so you've been in this position as an editor for the New Political for a while now. What do you bring to TNP as an editor that maybe your predecessors didn't, or what have you changed? Is there any innovations that you've made that have kind of elevated this publication?
Sure. I prioritized recruitment a lot. We have always been a smaller sized staff in comparison to some of the other publications on campus, and honestly, I think that works to our benefit because it allows us to work as a very close knit community of journalists and students, and I get the opportunity to learn people's interests and what they're good at and what they're maybe not so strong at that they want to work on, and I've really been blessed to be able to to have that sort of community. But what I think I'm better at is I'm a total people person. I think I can talk the paint off a wall, and I've used that to my advantage to bring in people that maybe aren't necessarily journalism majors. Maybe they're history majors, poli-sci majors, or I don't know. We had a couple business people write for us for a while, and they gave their takes on sort of the economy from a political standpoint for TNP for a while. And I think that's probably the thing that stuck out to me the most is I like to be able to get a wide array of people in my newsroom and work with as many different minds as I possibly can. And I think that I can get along with almost any mind out there. So I think that would probably be my biggest strength that's been a little bit different in past editor-in-chiefs. Yeah.
So, looking back on your time, do you have any specific memory or a specific moment, whether it is covering elections, like you said, or covering things that happened locally, like Senate Bill 1 happened in Ohio? Is there anything that any specific moment in your first few years as a part of the New Political when you realized that this is something that you wanted to continue doing? This is like your aha moment where like, oh, this is my motivation for continuing down this path with the New Political.
Yeah, I'll give you two. One from the earlier days of when I was an underclassman, and then one from sort of a more, I guess, semi-recent one from this year as well that really made me think like, okay, I am doing what I need to be doing in life. The first was probably going to city council and student senate meetings with an editor right when I sort of joined DNP. And to the naked eye, those meetings might seem as pretty mellow, pretty, by all cases of the word, boring, which I can understand. But I quickly realized that like what these people were talking about, whether it was student senate or city council, had massive implications on the college town that I'm going to be in for the next 4 years. Whether that was my student life, day to day going to college, what their budget encompassed and what they were spending their money on, and whether that affected me directly, indirectly, affected my friends, whatever, affected me in the coming years. I quickly grasped that with Student Senate, and I thought that to be really interesting and valuable. And I think, a lot of students should understand more what goes into Student Senate because they control a very large budget. And that's something that I think a lot of students should be aware of. For city council, I mean, there was a lot of stuff that was like local government, and while I'm not originally from Athens, but like I said, I've built a home here in the last 4 years. I built a life here. So again, a lot of the stuff that they would talk about at city council meetings, very important to me. Like what the traffic patterns are going to be on all these different streets once I got a car down here. It might sound really rudimentary at first, but it certainly could affect your, how long your commute is to class, or if you've got to go to a job interview, you got to go meet a source for a story. These are all little things that like a lot of times people overlook, but I didn't, and I quickly grasped it as a freshman. And I was like, okay, I wanted to learn more and more and more about this and get into the nitty gritty of these local issues within these two bodies of government. And then a recent example, I guess I'll give you, was election day this year. I mean, it was insane by every sense of the word. We were fully prepped for it. My staff was fully prepped for it, but there was no telling what was going to happen. I mean, this was one of the craziest elections of all time. And it was one that carried a lot of weight for a lot of young people, especially on campus. So having the opportunity to be able to do that and follow along with other journalists from across the nation and report on it to our little small corner of Ohio, I mean, it was a privilege. It was a lot of fun, and it was intense, and it was something that I really, really thought was valuable and that I will remember for the rest of my career. It made me realize, like, okay, Jack, like this is what you were like born to do.
And you mentioned gearing up your staff for this election. What does that look like, especially an election where you said that has so many different facets and it affects people in so many different ways? How do you prepare a group of maybe inexperienced freshmen or underclassmen in college to cover something of that magnitude?
Sure. We talked about it for weeks, so that was the first part of it. Is like making sure that everybody's had ample time to prepare for what I'm expecting our coverage to look like, and what the rest of the editors and the rest of the staff want it to look like as well. So ample time was the first thing. I mean, we were laying out plans, groundwork plans, weeks if not months in advance of election day. We then had, a set schedule of what reporters and photographers were going to be at what locations around, what polling locations, I should say, around campus. Trying to talk to anybody that was willing to talk, take as many pictures as we could for our, live blog styled article that we had on our website that was being constantly updated with results. We had, social media blitz, basically is what I'll call it, where every time there was some new state that was called for, Trump or Kamala, we were there. We were one of the first to tweet it out, post it on Instagram, whatever, and then we were also one of the first people in Athens to, have it live on our blog. So yeah, just really what I will never forget. I said to my staff though on election day, right before, everything really, we got into the weeds of everything, I was like, we want to be first, but we don't want to be sloppy. And I think I just made that really clear to everybody that like I want quality work and I want it to be done as fast as possible. But if you have an issue or if you are unsure about something, ask immediately, because time is money, especially in this industry. And I was very transparent with them. I was like, things are probably going to go wrong, and that's okay. I mean, we are young, we're student journalists, we're going to make mistakes, but we're here to pick each other up. No one's going to be upset. Let's just create the best possible coverage that we can with what we have and who we can talk to and whatever. And my staff responded extremely well to that. I mean, this was probably the smoothest election day that we've had, which is pretty insane to say because this was a presidential year, and in past election days, obviously weren't presidential. So, that would probably sum it up for it.
Yeah. And then, so looking forward for you, you are a senior here at Ohio. So what do you, or is this a path you think you're going to continue down after college? What does the future look like for you?
Sure. Right now I'm still on the job hunt. It's been an interesting road to go down for sure. But local journalism is definitely something that I want to start out with. I'm looking to go back to a more rural-ish area, whether that's in Ohio or elsewhere, remains to be seen. But yeah, I definitely want to, stay in local journalism to start, and then just keep grinding my way up to bigger and better things when those opportunities present themselves.
Absolutely. And for those of you just joining us, this is the Gen Z Up to the Ballot podcast. My name is Charlie James. I'm your host. We're joined with the editor-in-chief of the New Political, Jack Slem. And if you would like to hear more content from the Gen Z Up to the Ballot team, you can find it on hearmyvoiceonline.com and Gen Z Up to the Ballot on YouTube. So, moving on to more about the New Political as an organization. Can you give us a little bit of background, a little bit of history behind it? Like how did it start? How does it fill a community need? And how does it compare to other student publications, things like that?
Sure. We were founded in, I believe it was 2014. If I'm wrong about that, I'm sorry, but I believe we were founded in 2014, and we have been student-run, independent from the school since the dawn of time, since the beginning of our organization, and it fills a community need because, I mean, Athens, like it or not, is absolutely a news desert. You don't have your mainstream cable news station here in the town, in the city. So a lot of the times it falls on student newspapers to supply the news for what's going on in our little part of the world, and then also give your perspective, your opinion on political or national politics. So we are absolutely needed, and without us, I don't really know who would dive into a lot of the different political stuff that we dive into. It's just not necessarily everybody else's forte, which is okay. But so I guess then that leads me to your next little question. There is, how does it compare to other publications, other organizations? We compare because we all do news and opinion stuff on our websites and whatnot, and we do social media just like everybody else. But how we might be different is, I mean, we are highly specialized. There's a reason why, our mission statement, I guess, is references, the word political. Like, we are a political student newspaper, and not everybody else is that way. Everybody is a newspaper that covers a, wide variety of different topics and sections and whatnot. We are highly specialized in the political, sphere. Almost every single news story that we put out, and every single opinion story that we put out, has some sort of political angle to it. We do that on purpose because, like it or not, politics falls into a lot of different things that a lot of people don't even realize. So with us being that specialized, that's sort of what makes us different from, other publications, other organizations. That is why we have our reader basis, because, if everybody was the same, then there really would only be a reason to have, one student publication or one organization on campus. But having that difference is what's been key for us.
So you talked about how Athens has been, a news desert, and how politics is less covered without you guys, without the specialization that you guys provide. Would you say that you, are the leaders in political news coverage in Athens?
I'd say from a student perspective, absolutely. I mean, there's professionals out there like the Athens Messenger, the Athens County Independent, that, obviously those are their full-time jobs. So when they pick up a more political leaning story, obviously they have a larger reader basis than we do. I mean, we serve a student community and, a decent readership base from the rest of the Athens community that aren't students. But I think, and from a student perspective, we absolutely we do it the best. We do it the most. So it'd be hard to say that anybody else does it the best when we are doing it on just such a larger scale than everybody else.
So going back to you personally a little bit, can you describe your role as an editor-in-chief? Like, what does the day-to-day look like for Jack Slemenda in the New Political?
Sure. Well, every Sunday we have our all-staff meetings, and I lead those meetings by, going around doing announcements for what might be coming up down in the week and the weeks ahead. I touch base with all my editors about, what went well last week and what do you want to improve on this coming week. And then we sit down and we do basically it's a pitch meeting. I might have pitches that I throw out to writers that I think would fit their strengths, and then writers also raise their hands, and we go around the room and they tell me what oh, I have this pitch, I think this would be interested, and then basically it's a work in progress from there. I might shoot back like, oh yeah, absolutely, like do that works, that's exactly, like, I wouldn't change anything about that. Let me know if you need some sourcing, or Slack this person in TNP, they might have a source for you, or whatever. Or and more than likely it's hey, let's change the angle of that story a little bit. Let's say, like, have you heard about this piece of policy that's going on in OU, and how can you tie it into like this angle of your story? Or, oh, you want to write about that business that just closed? Well, there's two more that are closing, like, a couple blocks away on whatever street, like maybe we can see if there's a pattern here. So it's tweaking the angle, it's tweaking that sort of stuff on the all-staff meetings with those pitches. And then, into the week is, we set the story schedule on that Sunday once all the pitches have been talked about, whether they're coming in this week or the next. And then basically it's go time from there is writers immediately go out and then they start emailing, calling, talking in person with their sources, writing those stories. Once those stories are then in our drive, my other editors, we do it by section, so news and opinion. So the assistant news editor will look at it first, then the news editor, then the digital managing editor, then the managing editor, and then me. So it's a pretty vast group of people that look at all these stories, and it's the exact same pattern for our opinion section. They just have a different assistant opinion editor and an opinion editor, and then it's the other three. But yeah, like that's what it is. I have the final say on edits. I I guess I say what goes and what needs to be changed or what needs to be added or cut or whatever. And then once I'm done with it, whether it's me or somebody else, we put it up on the website. We let our social media team know. They post it on the social media platforms, and then rinse and repeat for the next story. And then I guess also in the day to day is being sort of the face of the organization, I suppose. If we're contacted by another media outlet, whether it's student run or not, I'm the one that responds. I draft up whatever needs to be said that goes to them. I am asked to do podcasts like this and talk about T&P for a larger audience and share what we do. And and then I guess I'm also the face of it. I talk with our advisors, from faculty advisors to org advisors, talking about budget and stuff like that for the upcoming semesters, making sure that our ad revenue is in a stable position on our website, and when we do our print versions, that we have ads that are sold to be able to finance what we want to finance. And so it's a lot. That's not every day am I doing that, but I would say I'm doing that at least probably every other day.
Yeah. And then you mentioned your print editions. How often do you guys produce those, and where can you find them?
Sure. We used to do print versions once a year. I jumped into editor-in-chief and I said, we're not doing that anymore. We're doing it twice a year. We're doing one per semester. And that's been really great for us. But we prioritize our website, obviously. But when we do the print versions, they follow a general theme. There's a theme to them. The stories, are all sort of joined by that theme in some capacity. It's a little loose, but there is a general theme nonetheless. Like I said, we're doing once a semester. They're usually towards the middle-ish of each semester. It kind of varies depending on what else we got going on, but usually it's right around the middle point of each semester. On Court Street, it might be cliche to say, but they really are everywhere.
And so, your print edition, along with, like you said, social media and your online edition of the New Political, has to reach a pretty broad audience. What does that audience look like? Is it mainly students? Do you reach a broader Athens area? Is it, what does the audience for the New Political look like?
Sure, it is definitely mostly students, for sure. I mean, that's kind of to be expected with it being a collegiate newspaper. But kind of like I said, I mean, with Athens being a news desert, there's a lot of people that turn to our website to read, about political news and political opinions from the student perspective. And we're very blessed to have, an amazing, local community outside the students that, actually appreciate the work that we put into our publication and appreciate the articles that we put out. There is definitely a sense of a local community, and we have, we get involved with them. We go to, there's different events that we're asked to come report on in the local community, and that they're reaching out to us, because they know that people read our website, read our print editions, whatever it might be, see us on social media, yada yada yada. But it's definitely mostly college, but I mean, we, like I said, we're hit up multiple times a week, a month, whatever, to come to some Athens, Southeast Ohio, whatever community event, whatever it might be, whether it's a show at the Union that's raising money in support of whatever charity, or there's some sort of protest or rally that's being done by whatever community that you can think of. I mean, there's one that pops into my head is there was a group of Athens, disabled people in Athens did a protest across campus, protesting, the lack of accessibility that a lot of our sidewalks and streets have, and they reached out to us being like, hey, we'd like for you guys to take photos, and this might be if this is a story that you're interested in, we have plenty of people that would love to talk to you. So we're very in touch with our local community, and they're in touch with us because, and I say that because if they weren't, they wouldn't be asking me to do stories on them, So that's, yeah, long answer there, but there you go.
So you mentioned how prominent and recognized the new political is around campus and around Athens. Have you received any type of recognition, any type of awards, not only personally from the university or otherwise, or as an organization, or just you yourself?
Sure. I'll give you two sort of recent ones. This past month, yeah, it was this past month, I attended the ONMA Fellowship Day Conference in Columbus with two other TNP editors, as well as our advisor. She took us to this conference, and we entered in a bunch of different categories for awards there for this fellowship conference day thing. And one of my opinion writers, Alyssa Gray, she won an award for her opinion writing on a story that she had done last year, and that was awesome. I mean, I was super thrilled to have won that and accepted that on her behalf, and she's now got the certificate, and we've got a copy of it while it's hanging in our newsroom, and that was just really cool because Alyssa, she works really, really hard for us, and the story that she did was outstanding. It was about her relationship with her mom, and comparing how her mom was when her mom was a student here versus how what it's like with her being a student here. And there's a lot of really cool overlap in that story, so I highly recommend that anybody goes out there and reads it. Great story, and it's award winning. But another one too is, and probably the one that we're most proud of, is last year we took home a second place award for our website, and we accepted this at the CMA convention in Atlanta, and that convention is the ONMA one that I was talking about earlier is just for newspapers in Ohio. Now the CMA convention one is for collegiate newspapers across the nation, and we took home a second place Division I Website of the Year award, and I was just over the moon about it. I mean, that was pretty great. I've had my own personal, successes and with internships and stuff like that, and I've been helped out a lot in the job search through my TNP wins, but those are two of the biggest ones for sure.
Awesome. So moving on down to some of the more current events that are going on, not only around Athens but around the nation, and how it's kind of impacting this specific, like you mentioned, this little corner of Ohio and the state as a whole. So I'm going to begin with one of the more recent breaking news type events. So the tariffs that President Trump has levied across the world. So do you see those tariffs impacting the Midwest, more specifically southeastern Ohio, in terms of affecting quality of life, affecting prices, affecting people's lives in a tangible way?
Sure. I think we'd be pretty naive to think that they won't affect everybody, and that's including Southeast Ohio. Everything is going to be a little bit more expensive than they are right now. Now, do I think that's going to be necessarily a bad thing in the long run? No. I think that this is a big change that I think is something that has been needed in our country for a long time. I think that we've been very stagnant in how we approach our foreign relations and stuff like that in terms of what imports, exports are happening within our country. And I think a little bit more of a aggressive approach can be good, so long as what we're being told in the news and what is being passed via executive order and other forms of legislation as well, so long as what they're saying, that yes, things are going to take a price jump, but hey, think about the bigger picture. Think about it in a couple of years from now, this is going to sort itself out and we'll be in a better financial or economic way of life once this all sort of just works its way out. So, yeah, I mean, it's definitely going to impact it. I mean, the clothes you buy are going to be a little bit more expensive. You know, getting your car repaired on, you know, different parts are going to be, it's going to be more expensive for sure. But I think people just need to not lose sight of the potential that's out there and the bigger picture that is to come. And I think things will work out all right.
Yeah. So moving on to another issue that was pretty present, especially here with the protests that happened earlier in, I believe, March. So with Ohio U being a pretty diverse university, have you seen any meaningful impacts of President Trump's ban on DEI programs around town, specifically in Athens?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I know that there's been conversations that have been said with the Women's Center, the LGBTQ plus center. I think like there's been serious conversations about those closing, which is unfortunate because I mean those places, you know, they not only are they comfortable places for people of those communities to go and turn to for resources or help or whatever they might need, but they're also jobs for students and. Like it or not, I mean, there's not always a lot of pretty easygoing, flexible scheduled jobs for students to jump into while on campus. And those are two that, I am not super privy to what the future of those is actually going to be. I don't know if they are for sure closing or not. I just know that there have been conversations with staff members, the folks that run those centers. I know that there is the potential for them to be closing either at the end of this year or the beginning of next, or maybe they're not. I don't know. But I know that those conversations have been said, and those are difficult conversations to say the least. So, yeah, I mean, that would be something that I have seen the impact on. I mean, of course, we've also seen, you know, walking around College Green, the protests that have been taking place on those. Thankfully, OU has been they've been civil. They've been peaceful protests. No one's going around doing anything really crazy on campus other than holding up some signs and chanting, which is absolutely within everybody's right, and I understand that because again, this is a big shakeup to our world, to our collegiate lives as well. But yeah, I think those would probably be the two biggest things that I've seen around campus, and I guess a little bit. I'm bummed that I'm going to be graduating soon because I'm still curious to see how it's going to unfold for all college campuses across the U.S., but specifically OU.
Gotcha. And so our last question here: President Trump's promise to crack down on illegal immigration has resulted in an increase in deportation, not only in Ohio but around the country. Have you seen this impact on the state of Ohio, and how do you think that this is going to play out over the course of his administration over the next 3-4 years?
Sure, I have seen it directly affect my hometown community. Actually, there's a local Mexican restaurant back home in Cleveland Heights that there were workers that were grabbed by deportation officials in the middle of their workday. I don't know fully what became of them. I just remember reading the story that was ran in one of the local newspapers back home. So yeah, like it is real in Ohio. Just because we're very far north of the border and not on either west or east or west coasts. It is real in the Midwest, and it's going to remain that way. How I think it will play over the course of the administration. I mean, I'll be honest. I don't think it's going to slow down. I mean, this was arguably the number one thing that President Trump campaigned on this time around, and I think a lot of people, conservative and or Democratic, looked at his previous stint as president and the deportation or the crackdown on immigration. It wasn't fully there. I mean, the wall was being built, but wasn't fully finished, and it people weren't really sure what the real impacts of that were. And I think Trump kind of like sat down with his team ahead of this campaign and looked at himself in the mirror and said, okay, like, if I'm going to walk the walk, or if I'm going to talk the talk, I need to walk the walk. And he is walking the walk right now. And I don't think that's going to slow down that much over the next, couple years of his presidency.
Gotcha. All right. Well, that is all the time we have on today's podcast. I'd like to thank Jack Slemenda for taking the time to talk to us today. I'd also like to thank the other members of our team that helped make this episode possible. Jack, if people want to read The New Political, if they want to interact with the organization or maybe even get involved, where should they go?
Sure. If you want to read The New Political, our website is thenewpolitical.com, and then we are just at The New Political on all social media platforms, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. You can listen to our Athens Happens podcast via our website, as well as our YouTube, which is, again, just The New Political. If you'd like to get involved, please feel free to email exec, E-X-E-C, edit, E-D-I-T, at thenewpolitical.com. And one of the editors will be able to see that email, and we would love to point you in the right direction. We'd love to have you be a part of our community, a part of our team. And yeah, that's about it.
Great. Well, we'd like to thank everyone for tuning in throughout this excellent conversation. This has been an episode of Gen Z Up to the Ballot podcast. My name is Charlie James. And remember, while we give you the information, it's up for you to decide. So long, everybody.